Hi everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative. And today's video, we are going to discuss molds. And I say that and I chuckle because I've run into another situation where my mold, once I've taken the piece out of the mold, has not come out the way I expected it to. So I thought we could have a little bit of a discussion on that and what maybe you may want to think about doing before you pour another mold similar to the one I've got. So we know I have that beautiful mold that I absolutely love, that's of the woman's, part of her head and her and the, her chest area and back. Absolutely love that mold. I had gone on to Temu. I was looking at molds again and I found a really cool mold. Love it. However, I made it today. And similar to what happened to the Brie Reese mixed mold that sucked itself in, this one did the exact same thing. So here's what the inside looks like. You can see the bubbles here, and I've got, maybe a 1/4 of an inch. I could put something in there, but yeah, good luck to me. And I was disappointed when I took it out of the mold, one, because it took a lot. So I'm just going to say, if you get this mold, be prepared. It's a challenge to get it out. Bar none, I probably spent 10, 15 minutes working on getting this piece out of this mold. But that's not really, I'm just telling you that in case you like it and you want to buy it. Just be prepared. It's going to take you some time. I've never put, and I'm going to keep going for a couple of seconds, I've never put mold release in one of these where I've been using the mix to mold, J Diction, because I don't know what's going to happen. I guess really the best way for me to find that out is actually to try it just to see what it does, right? But right now I don't know what it would do. That may help if it's okay to put this stuff in the mold for this type of product. So again, I don't know. You can test it. I might test it at some point. I also know that eventually it does get a little bit easier working with these molds. I just want you to be aware in case you decide to buy it. Back to the mold, back to my problem. So this isn't helpful. I will show you the mold though. See how pretty this is? And so when I did this, I used the mix to mold and I used the mix to mold pigments because I didn't want harsh colors. I wanted something soft and gentle. The other thing with my mold, whether it would be with anyone else's, is that I have in here, I have 2 slate holes that I don't know if it's because I got air bubbles in them or not, because this is the bottom, so it could be air bubbles. I'm not concerned about those. I can fill that in with UV resin. I can fix that, not a problem. I just want to point that out as well. I don't know if it's air bubbles. I don't know if the mold's too thin in that spot. I'm just pointing that out to you as well. There's some other areas where I've gotten some air bubbles as well, but they're not really obvious under my chin here. Air bubbles. Okay, now back to our regular scheduled programming, talking about these molds and how are we going to deal with this, people, because it's driving me nuts. And I didn't take into consideration I might have a problem with this, which is fair. Now, having said that, we know with the Brie Reese, they had suggested putting the mold inside the mold. I'm dealing with, this in here. So what am I going to do? As far as this piece goes, and what am I going to do? I'm going to go into my garage with my sander and I'm going to work on sanding this down because that's going to be pretty thick in there, right? We've got at least an inch on one side and maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch on this side. I'm going to work on sanding that down in order to make this a piece I can use. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm willing to do it because I do think this is a really pretty mold. And I'll just circle you around it. And I have to admit, I do love how I did the coloring so that I got some really pretty dimension on this. And I'm thinking that in order to bring the leaves and whatnot, the flowers, I might end up painting a little bit on this just to bring them up. And I'd probably definitely put a gloss coating on this. Anyways, that's the mold. It's not very big. I think it's probably about 3.5 inches tall. And again, this would be a piece that I'd put a succulent in it. Talked enough about that. Put it aside. What are we going to do about this? I have a couple of thoughts that are going through my head, and part of that is because of the insight and what people were suggesting to me with the other mold I have that does not want to stand on its own. So people had suggested putting a box around, but because we're dealing with the inside here, it's round, it makes it a bit more of a challenge for me. So I spent some time before I started this video going, okay, you want to do a video because you want to tell people if you're going to get molds like this, I'm going to highly recommend, because I'm going to do it moving forward, is to put something on the inside before you even pour the first time. We don't know what's going to happen, and it's unfortunate that myself and others who have worked with the mixed mold had issues with it. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, this is a situation. Let's do something about it before we pour it next time. And if I got another one, let's fix it before we even do the first pour. I had thought silicone. What if I filled this with silicone? As I was thinking about that, I thought, but is it going to cause an issue trying to take it out of the mold? As I said, 10 minutes is a long time to try and get a piece out of a mold. I'm hoping moving forward it will be easier. Maybe the next time I do it, I spray in some some mold release and see if that helps, and find out whether or not it's going to have an adverse effect on the product being poured into it. I wouldn't be concerned if I did resin, because that's sort of what it's meant for, but I don't know about this. Okay, silicone. Yes, I thought about it. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, and whether or not it would make getting this mold out more challenging than it already is, because I'm not going to have any give in there. I have give right now. If I fill that with silicone, all of a sudden it's solid. And I have molds here that I've made of my own, and they are solid, right? You can't massage them. You can't, sort of go like this to try and push things out. I don't want to do that. I know it's an option, but I don't want to do that. I also have some just solid pieces of silicone that I've made, and I made these because in other molds I wanted to be able to put something in the center so I could create a crater within the piece I was doing. And as much as I drop these in here, they're not the right fitting for this. So that wasn't going to work. I had considered one of these solo cups, and this one, it sort of fits in. Could we stand it upside down and make it? Yeah, I could do that. My only wondering about that is if this isn't like set right in and not right up against the mold itself, again, not going to know that unless I do it, am I still going to get indentations from it? I could trim off the very top of this and then, really shove it down in there, which may, again, it's sort of the same shape, so that may work, and I could give that a go, which would mean then I could leave it. This mold didn't need to go inside a container. I put it inside of one just because, just felt like the right thing to do. I didn't have any issues with the mold, okay, just to make you aware of that. It was just, there's just times it's like, just put it inside of something. I just like that comfort of knowing. Okay, so this, I guess if I cut around there would be an option for me. These aren't, because they're not the right size. I did have this one, but again, we're not dealing with a like round. We're dealing with something that, goes down. So we're putting all those aside because they're not going to be used. And then the other thing is, as other people had suggested to me with the bigger mold and making it stand up straight, was to use rice, which means I get to fill this up, and I'm going to use a plastic bag. I'm just going to demonstrate for right now. And again, this may not be the best option in the world. And what I might do, as I'm looking at this other cup, just give me a second yeah, that's too big. The red solo cup would probably be a better option. So let's take a little bit of rice. Let's see, I haven't tried this, so I figure, well, we might as well, you know, give this a go together, see what this looks like. Would it work, or is there still going to be, there shouldn't be, you know, I'm one of these people who I have to sort of really think through things and visualize the whole process to get me to the end. So if we put this in, and again, it's going to be one of those, and some people may say, well, just pour it in. Problem with that is, how am I going to keep it in? So that's why I'm doing this. So I don't, you know, I have to shake this around a bit, and I don't know if it's getting all the way down, and I don't want to distort. So that's the other thing I think about is, like, we don't want to do any distortion to this piece that's down there. Yeah, so I don't, yeah, as I pull it out, let me just, again, I'm, as they would say, spitballing this to some extent to try and, yeah, to get this the way it might need to be. And then I have to make sure that whatever I do keeps this flat as well. So we have that to take into consideration. So you know, as I'm sort of shoving this in here, I'm going, ooh, is this a good idea or not? So let me just put it in there. Yeah, it could work. I really just need enough around it so that it can't suck itself in, which I find very curious that it's doing that it's that thin that it just pushes it, but we know it happens. So I guess that is an option for me. Again, I'm not fussy about just putting the rice in on its own, because I don't know how I'm going to keep it in there, and then there's a matter of getting it back out. But just to play for you, just because I can, and we're on camera, but let's see what we can do. If I put that in there like this, probably is going to, almost had enough in there, eh? Ooh, look at that. Okay, we can knock it down in there. And I don't know, actually, if, again, the only way you could do is to seal it, but I don't want to do that. I know I don't want to do that. So we'll just knock this down. Okay, let's get some more rice. I mean, this is sort of the cleaner way of doing it, isn't it? Okay, let's do this a little bit more. And then you know, when I'm done with the piece, when it's set, then you dump out the rice first, and then you carry on. Hopefully the next time it won't take me it won't take me 10 minutes ripping two perfectly good pairs of gloves. Well, one pair of perfectly good gloves. It was, oh, I had to take a break. Like, you know, okay, this is causing me more stress than I needed to. I mean, I'm very pleased that I got out, but it took a bit. So, you know, if you get it, beware of, and it's going to take you a bit to get it out. So let's just knock that down. I don't want to jam it in, but I think it's important that we get it in there well. I might just do this, you know. I'm just trying to think of how I can flip it upside down without... My rice is moist. Not odd. An odd thing to say, my rice is moist. It's been sitting in a bag for a while. I've used it for a couple other things, as far as helping level some stuff out. Okay, so if we do this, I know nothing sticks to silicone but silicone. I found that out. So if we did that, oops, okay, I didn't want to do that. Let's just pick these all up, put them in here. I'm just trying to think what I've got. Okay, I'm thinking paper. It's going to be too big, but. Okay, giving me a second. I'm looking around my room, seeing what I got. Okay, let's do this. Let me just move that over. Well, maybe. We've shook it down. This would be easier than that, by the way, now that I consider it. Yeah, that might be the easiest way to do it. And then if there's a few pieces of rice left in it once I empty it out, I mean, that truly isn't a big deal. Okay, so maybe what I'm going to do is, now that we've got that set, and now that I know that the mold is fine as far as pouring anything into it, and I trust that it's going to sit. I mean, it's got the four bases. It might be. Yeah, it was no issue in the container I had it in. Okay, I'm going to make this interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make up. So the other thing I have to consider now is I put 200 mils of the mixed mold was what I mixed up to make this. And I know now, I'm sorry, I'm not in camera. So I had made up 200 mils for this. I know it's not going to take 200 mils now, so I have to rethink my number. 200. I want to say 150, but I don't think that'll be enough. Maybe I'll make 175, and we'll see if that's enough for this now. And I'll see if I can't get the pretty colors. The bottom looks like this because the coloring had most of it had been poured out, and I actually had to make it a little bit more up. Did I make more up on this one? Thinking. I think I did. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'll make another one. We'll come back once it's made and once it's set, and then we can see how we're very carefully going to take it out. We'll see, and we'll see what happened. We'll be back. Well, I'm back. And a couple of things. So this is still sitting on its platform. I have not moved it. I had thought, okay, pick it up, dump the rice out, and then take it out of the mold. And I thought, no, I'll take the, show how I'm going to take the rice out of it. And then I'll probably go away and come back once I get out of the mold, because I'm not going to be able to do that on camera, and I know I'm not until this mold kind of gets broken in. Before I do that, however, I want to show you this piece, and that piece just got put in the way of things. So what have I done? I may have been better off had I let this dry out a little bit more than sanding it straight away, but I have gotten some of the inside out. There's not the bulge in it that there was before. I'm trying to get this. Oh, darn. So I've have made some headway with that. I finally decided to stop. I'm going to let it dry out some more before I do anything else. Am I going to be able to get this to the shape that I want to get it? Probably not. It's better now, and I have an opportunity to, perhaps make something to put inside it so I could put a flower arrangement on it. My sister got one of my angels. It's got the pot at the back. I gave that to her. She did an arrangement up in that because she works with flowers, and she's just amazing when she does it. Pictures of that are posted on my Being Intentionally Creative Facebook page because I wanted to show it off. Just because of the fact that I made the angel, she did the flower arrangement, and it's just a beautiful coming together of two talents. And so I'd like to do something like that with this. Okay, and the other thing I did is I just sanded the bottom of this to get it smoothed out. We have some air bubbles there. I've got some air bubbles here, but I'm okay with that. So we still look beautiful, and I'm looking forward to seeing if any more color comes out. I think the blue's coming out a little bit more on that, and we will fix that. And I might sand down. Again, I'm still enjoying this whole antique-ish, not quite perfect, the pieces. You know what? It makes them special. I noticed too when I had this outside that there are a lot of sort of striations and whatnot in it. And someone had mentioned about the making of these molds, and if they're not done exactly right, that's what happens, and or if they're 3D molds, that you get some imperfections on them as well. But I think it depends on what you're doing with it. And someone had told me a long time ago when I was doing my paintings and whatnot, it's all about the process. It's part of the process. It's what happens. It's what comes out. And I think of pieces like this, and I think to myself, if I went into when I say a cement store, years ago there used to be a place about an hour away from me that sold cement pieces, being angels or pots or what have you, in different shapes and whatnot. And the angel that I ended up picking up, by no means is it perfect, but I absolutely love it because of what it represents to me. I think that's part of it. When someone's looking for something, if they're going to be extremely picky and notice every flaw in what is there, then that's not the piece for them. And perhaps they are not your ideal client. And I look at something like this and I think, this isn't perfect. I can see, different things within it that make it not a perfect piece. But I like that about it. And I know there'd be others out there. And unless you're going to take it and, examine it really, really close up, if you're doing something like that, then you need to go find a place that's going to make pieces that are absolutely perfect. And then I'm going to say that person is going to pay a lot of money for that perfect thing. And it's the same for brand name things. You go out and buy a brand name Rolex watch or a Hermes bag, you're going to pay for the name. Anyway, I like it. That's what matters. So let's very carefully get me off my soapbox, as it were. Let's very carefully. This has been sitting. I believe it has been sitting for over an hour. Okay, so let's just turn you upside down. Okay, you can put that off to the side, and then we'll just dump the rice in there. Got most of it out. Just gonna bang the rest of it out. Going to okay, now it's interesting. I had not thought to look at this when, well, of course, why would I, right? I was more interested in getting the piece out of the mold than I was about whether or not it had caved. But that would have been something to look at. So there's my rice. I'll put it back in the bag. That's how this looks. I wish I had looked at it. I want to bring it up. You know what? I'm really annoyed. I can't. I have to chuckle trying to get this. You guys must love me for that. Can she not just hold that thing straight and get it where it needs to be? I guess if I had looked at this before I took it out of the mold the very first time, I would have, seen that I had an issue straight away. But how often do you do that? And I'm asking that question. If you'd like to comment on that, please do so. I didn't think this mold would be an issue, but I can see the colorant in here pretty obviously, but at least it's not caved in, so I'm taking that as a really good sign. Doop. There we go. Okay. So the rice is out of it. Got a piece of fleck of something in here that's driving me nuts, so let's just get out of there. What colors did I use, since you're asking? And then this was another thing. Red and green. Seriously, two colors that don't go together, but Natalie was, thinking. So I used magenta, green, and yellow. I will tell you that I had separated into two containers. I mixed up the mixed mold, separated into containers, and then I put drops of red and yellow together and green and yellow together, just so I could have some fun. And then toward the end, I added a little bit more colorant because most of it had been poured into this. The other thing I did was I made up just a little bit more. I had said 175 mils. I think probably 180. 180 would have been better, maybe 185. But also I note that the inside of this comes down to about here on her. So the rest of this you know, that, what, inch and a half? It doesn't matter that I didn't fill this up. Okay. I'm not going to try and do this on camera because I'm going to need to pull it against me. So as soon as I have it out of the mold, we'll come back. How challenging it is to get that piece out of that mold. Well, I'm going to tell you once again, you're going to have patience. I hurt 2 of my knuckles when I was trying to do this. Let me see if I can get them into, darn it, Natalie, camera range. So I hurt 2 of my knuckles. I broke a piece off of this, and that was all my doing because of how I was hitting the top of this mold. So that's all on me. I have the piece that I broke. I broke a nail trying to get it out. The next one I make, this one I did not put in mold release. I swear I will be putting it in the next one because I need to, there's got to be an easier way of getting this out, because what's happening is this is the thinnest part of it, and then you've got into the neck and like up here, and it's just, wow. It's a wow piece to get out. I tell you that for sure. You need patience to get it out. I was getting hot trying to get it out. I need to get something into this. And I'm hoping I might be, if I can't get this piece on, I'm going to see about sanding that down. It's a really tiny little piece I've got here to deal with, and I'll see about putting it on. Now, the other thing we wanted to take note of, because it happened on this one, and again, okay, so you can see this one is looking like it should on the inside, so our rice worked, which is great. So knowing that, in the future you can use that idea too. We had the hole in this one, and I'm hoping you can see it right here. We had the hole. So on this one, I don't have a hole here. And so maybe it's because of the fact that this was pushed out the way it was versus getting sucked in. So that might be part of it. I've got another chip over here too. As I say, you're going to have, like, seriously, have patience. I will do another one of these, and I will be spraying it to see if that makes any difference as far as being able to get it out of the mold. I'm willing to take that wager just because I don't want to be hurting my hands every time I do this mold. It's very pretty though. It is a very pretty mold. The rice inside of it helped. I think it turned out pretty decently. I've got some issues, and I'm not really surprised from an air bubble perspective. I'm not. I did bang it when I put it in there, but again, there are a lot of sort of intricate little parts to this, which, you know, makes it more challenging. But it's a pretty mold. Nonetheless, it's a really pretty mold. Will I be doing it with resin? Yes, I will be, just because I want to see. But I kind of look at it and think I'm not going to get near the design, the blending, if I do it with resin. I think the one thing with the mix to mold or the J Diction is that, you know, you can kind of get some really funky looking, you know, coloring happening with it. Easier, maybe better than you can with resin, but at least we solved the problem. The rice worked really well. It wasn't a major issue to get it out. I can put it back into the bag with the other rice now. I have some fixing up to do, but I don't have a problem with that. As far as how am I going to match color, yeah, well, what I might do, and I'll have to see, is if I were to take some of this and put it on a sponge and just, you know, tap it in there, that might work. Now the only problem is this was mixed in water, or mixed in the white, so yeah, it might come out not right. But anyhow, here we go. We fixed our problem. We've solved that one. We have a nice big place for a succulent now. So I'm just going to head away from this for just a second because now I'm getting all tangled up. I have one of my succulents from the other. So let's see. It just fits in there. I'd rather see my sister come up with something, as far as she's not into these types of pieces, but I kind of think it would look cool to get something in there and then have some more flowers or something else coming out of the top of her head. Anyway, that's it. I'm sorry, I'm sort of, you know, falling off into my own little world here now, thinking of things. That's it. That's the mold. I am going to now, moving forward, especially with these pink molds, is to put rice into them, so I don't have that issue in the future. And I'm wondering if you can see. Yeah, okay. So you can probably see this back here, and you're wondering what this is. Well, you're going to have to wait to see that, because it's a really beautiful piece, and I was playing around with some stuff, so I might do a show and tell. I pretty much have my church window done, and I want to do that. So maybe when I show you this piece, I'll show you what I ended up doing with my window, and I will be doing another one of those. So we'll do a video on that so you can, you know, see the whole process on it. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, especially on how to get really, if you have molds that are really challenging and how you're managing to get the pieces out of them, I would love to know. I know I had a Christmas tree and we ended up putting soapy water down, but again, it was just one of those that took a lot of time to get out. As I was sitting trying to pull this thing out, I thought, well, what if I were to, you know, slice the mold down? And I know people have done that. They've sliced them and then they've, you know, put string around them or whatnot, because the silicone will, you know, stick to itself. I don't know if this is a good idea with this stuff, but hey, maybe that's a test I do at some point. Suggestions, comments, because I know when I asked for comments the last time on when I needed suggestions for something, you guys were fantastic for giving them to me. I am more than happy to get some suggestions on this, because I seriously don't want to hurt myself every time I'm trying to get it out of the mold. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye for now.